Without taking too much of our time, I'm going to be calling on Mr. Victor Enyingwa, the head of sales and marketing of Periwinkle Residence Limited, who is going to be making a presentation titled Funding and Developing World-Class Luxurious Mixed-Use Estates Across the Nation, a case study of Periwinkle Residences Limited. And I hand over to you, Mr. Victor, for the next 10-15 minutes. Thank you very much.
Hello. This is Adedola Kodose. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Good everyone. My name is Adedola Kodose. I'll be taking the presentation for today for Periwinkle Residence Limited. Hope you can hear me. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I would like to share my slides right now. Okay. Can everybody see the slide? Hello.
Yes, we can see your slide.
Okay. Welcome to today's conference. My name is, like I said, Adedola Kodose. I'm the head of brand management and IT for Periwinkle Residence Limited. Today we'll be doing a presentation on the funding and development of a world-class luxurious mixed-use estates across the nation, a case study of Periwinkle Residence Limited. For those that don't know about Periwinkle Residence Limited, we are an urban luxury real estate development company with integrated infrastructure and project management embedded in the business. And we have been in business since 2014 when we started the Periwinkle Lifestyle Estates. So where we are located presently, we have an estate in Periwinkle Lifestyle Estates in the Lagoon District of Phase 1. And also, we have a new project at Ikoyi off Point Drive, Euro Street. Basically, we're talking about the Periwinkle Lifestyle Estates, which is like our first and foremost project. Pretty much, the Periwinkle Lifestyle Estate is a 17-acre of dreaded part of the lagoon that was at the end of Freedom Way, and we have taken in cognizance of everything that has to do with Lekki Phase 1. We have mitigated everything that has to do with Lekki Phase 1, and we have incorporated that into the estate. So basically, what you can see is that everything that makes Lekki Phase 1 a downtown, we have made it a better thing for us. So basically, like I said, we are located at the end of Freedom Way. We are at the end of Freedom Way, at the end of the road. We are first developed estates in the Lagoon District. So I don't know if anybody has come to the end of Freedom Way. We have a new location in Lagos, which is called the Lagoon District, where the likes of Orange Island, Ostia Island, and ITBC are located. Pretty much, like I said, we are the first developed estate in that region. And as we go on in this presentation, you can understand what we have tried to, to bring about. So basically, what we call our estate is a mini city because of the amount of plug and play lifestyle we have been able to inculcate into the estates. As you can see on the slide, you can see a drone shot of what the estate looks like. It's a 17-acre, and in that same estate, we can see we have a residential part where people buy land and are going to build residential houses. Then we have the mixed-use parts where you can see all our present developments coming up. We have the Oxygen Apartments, which is our first and foremost project. It's a 10 high-rise building of twin towers. Then we have the homes, the villas, and the terraces. Then inside the same estate, you can see that we have a shopping mall and a recreational center coming up. And also we have an American Specialist Hospital, and we have an hotel also in the estates. So I'm going to run through our ongoing projects. Like I said, we have the registration, we have the mixed-use part where we have started our development. Then you can see on the screen is the oxygen towers, like I said, 10 blocks. You can see the recent picture of what the development looks like today. Like I said, we are building an estate that would be able to accommodate everybody as much as possible, and those that aspire to live well. This tower is comprises of 54 units of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and 4 bedroom apartments. Then we go to the terrace houses, which are 13 units of them, almost completed. We are done with the first phase. We are going to the next phase right now. Then we have the villa homes, which are 12 units. From what you have seen, you can see presently, we have looked at design, we have looked at the craftsmanship of projects around Lagos, and we have built on that and improved on that design. You can see our design are not what you can see on a daily basis. We have made sure that what we have put together is something that the markets they are happy to take in cognizance of. Now, just recently, because of the demand of the markets, and I think the next panel to come up is the impact of COVID-19. It's a pleasure to announce that COVID-19 has, yes, it brought its problems, but then it's created more avenues for us. We have seen a upscale rise in demands of apartments and homes. So we are presently, this month, we are launching 2 projects, which are 60 units of 2 bedroom and a BQ. And also the project in Ikoyi, which is a very luxurious one. It's a vibrant villa with lifts, with 2 bedroom BQ, with a swimming pool, with a study. And we are launching this because of the market demand at the moment. We see a lot of people looking for where to put their money in quality real estate. And so that's what we have done. We have put our platform out there, and people are responding to what the business is. So basically, these are the projects coming up this month. So if you are interested, you can contact us later. Then upcoming projects, like I said, based on demand, we have different projects coming up in the estate also. These are villas and terraces. Presently, we have 12 units of villas ongoing. Then we have 13 units of terrace ongoing. But as like I said, people are looking for where to put their money, and we have responded to that, and we are coming up with new projects. These projects are to start construction by December this year. So it's just a very good platform for us to showcase what we are doing presently. Like I said, it's a mixed-use estate. So we are making sure that everything is embedded. Like I said, it's a plug and play. It's a mini city. You don't have to actually go out. So basically, we have an hotel coming up. It's a Blue Signature Hotel. It's supposed to be a 4-star hotel coming up with the estate. Also, we have a mall, the Auto Mall. It sits on 4,500 square meters. The car parking space of 100 cars. Presently, we're already getting requests from tenants of the mall. The mall is proposed to begin next year, so that is going to be in the estate also. So, like I said, we have looked at the problems within the Lekki axis, and we have made sure that we upscale from that. So you can see the various amenities we are providing in the estate. Drainage system is fantastic. We have a central sewage system, which the technology is from Germany, which takes all your waste into a central location. Also, we have looked into high pressure water, good water system, and everything. So basically, the estate is fantastic, pretty much. Also, within the estate, we have people that have bought lands and other properties to create something of their own. So one of them is the Ambulatory Surgery Center of Lagos. It's supposed to be an American specialist hospital for surgery, actually. So the owner is a medical doctor in the US. Is proposing to do this in the estate, which we know would go a long way at the end of the day. Also, furthermore in the estate, we have an Irish school coming up, we have a basketball academy also coming up. So the estate is, like I said, it's a mini estate, it's a mini city, it's a plug and play environment. Because of what we have done here and the response to the markets, we have brightened our horizon and we are going further to other parts of Nigeria. As you can see on the screen, those are the upcoming locations we are coming to. These locations are poised to start up by first quarter in 2021. We will have done it now, but we are taking it one step at a time. So pretty much all our products are offline, and we make it very interesting for people to key in. So we try and bring down the initial deposits as low as possible, so that we can accommodate as much as possible, as much people as possible into the estates. And as you can see, the project is good. People are keen in. We can see developments coming up here and there. So basically, that is what we are hoping to inculcate in every other locations. We have a project coming up in Enugu, project in Anambra, a project in Akwa Ibom, and one other one in Lagos here. It's all massive projects of over 100 hectares of land. So that's basically what we are looking at. Like I said, I think the COVID-19 has changed a lot of things for the industry. You can see a lot of people trying to put their money where they'll get good returns. So I think the estate has done that, and we are very happy to take in more tenants and more residents at all our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dolapo. It's good to see you again. I've never been in doubt of the spirit of excellence that you exude. This is a wonderful presentation from Periwinkle. As a matter of fact, I'll be giving it a huge consideration. The whole integrated service offerings that some of these projects seems to bring to fore makes a whole lot of sense. I imagine it's going to become a model that is going to look further. Thank you very much. We're going in now fully to the panel session with the theme, Real Estate Development in Nigeria and the Effect. Be the moderator in the person of Mr. Ayo Ibaru, the COO of Northcourt Real Estate. And the member of that panel as follows: Mr. Emmanuel Odemayowa, who is the CEO of Deluxe Residences, is going to definitely be on that panel. He's a graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University, the best university in Nigeria and by extension in the world. For some of you who might not know, Freeland Properties Limited. Madam Uzom Oshogwe, congratulations as being the Real Estate Woman of the Year. Courtesy, and none of us will say we're not subscribed to. And to join them also on the other panel, on this same panel, is the acting MD, Executive Director, Urban Shelter Nigeria, or thereabout, or last year, if I remember. And the last but not the least, we have the MD, CEO of Periwinkle Residences, Mr. Chedu Iweke. He's certainly joining on that panel to basically explore that as a matter of fact. And gentlemen, I know that Mr. Ayo himself knows we will still work with the panelists that we have here, make to understand Madam Uzo had to quickly go and do one or two things. It came out as an emergency. So Ayo, you're just going to be working with Mr. Emmanuel and then Mr. Chedu and Mr. Muktau for this particular panel session. Over to you, Mr. Ayo Ibaru.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Would like to thank Thinkmint. I also want to thank each and every one of my panelists, who are ready. So I'll just ask a question and then find somewhere. Spoke with Uzo not too long ago. Mrs. Oshogwe asked that we please give her some time. She had to make a very impromptu presentation, and she will join us as soon as she can. And I mean, she's the Real Estate Woman of the Year. So Urban Shelter Nigeria has done fantastic work. The sheer volume that they've been able to achieve is unprecedented on some levels. And everyone has said one or two things about the pandemic. We have even written a report recently published about how the pandemic has affected real estate. So I think my question to you will go along the lines of how has now, in your view, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected the sentiment towards real estate investment in Nigeria? And, you know, in your daily work, you meet with different stakeholders. How has this pandemic also affected their operations in the
market? Good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction, Ayu, and for moderating. I want to thank you as well, all the panelists and everyone who was involved in this forum. As far as urban shelter, the experience with the pandemic was an enlightening one. But just to go straight to answering, the answer is, the pandemic has affected sentiment adversely. Before this happened, particularly, and by April, there was a precipitous fall in revenue, because at that time, as we all know, the economy was shut down. So there wasn't any coming and goings, and really no one was engaging with the economy. So that had a significant effect in terms of people's sentiment, and you saw it in terms of how they reacted with their pockets, their investments. But in our case also, and this is very telling, by May, just as quickly as this decline happened, by May we saw a sharp rise as well. By June, we were pretty much at the levels that we were pre-COVID. And I think this speaks volume about, not just our company, but the mindset, the perspective that people have about what we're able. So when you have a situation where you're in the midst of a deep recession and people are still purchasing your products, what that really translates into is, no matter how uncertain the future is, we trust that you will deliver on what you say you will deliver. And that's not a small responsibility, and that's not a small advantage to have. So as far as the sentiment and how it happened, that was our experience. It was very quick. It was a quick shock, March, and then April, we had a sudden dip. By May, June, we had a very quick reverse. And even by the attestation of economists, when it comes to a rebound in a recession, you can't ask for more than a V-shaped, which is precisely what our experience, has been. Now, we, even before sort of engaging post-lockdown, after the lockdown, we did a number of things to prepare ourselves, obviously. Anyone who has been watching the trends as early as January, February, you saw that at least internationally, there was beginning to be a sort of contraction in activity, and the threat of COVID was very palpable. And what was to follow as an economic shock was also something you could see. So we started preparing as early as we could for that. And so by the time that these shocks came, I think we were fortunate that we were able to absorb it, and quickly bounce.
Very much for that. In one word, it has been an enlightening experience. And, I was in a conversation sometime last week, and these were the kinds of sentiments we arrived at. That at the end of the day, Nigerians have a way of getting back up and, finding their way to the next level. Thanks a lot for that clarification and sharing your thoughts on how you've been able to navigate the pandemic. So I was listening to the previous presentation, and Mr. Falowo, I think, from Greenwich, did what investment bankers do best, which is take a very unvarnished approach to any issue placed in front of the heavy. But as it is, we have someone on our panel today who is familiar with dealing with projects of a certain scale, and he's done it quite a number of times, and that's Mr. Nweke, CEO, Chairman of Periwinkle Residences. And that's why I'm going to throw this question to you, sir. What policies do you think can be put in place to open up Nigeria's economy for real estate investment? Because already we are discussing how the curves are going to go, whether it's V-shaped, all of that. And at the end of this presentation, I do have a special question prepared for my esteemed panelists. But before we get there, what policies do you think the government can put in place to open up Nigeria's economy, for real estate investment?
Well, thank you for having me. I also want to congratulate this day. Business Day. This has been a very good outing, very rich outing. I think I want to look at the effect of COVID from a perspective that most people don't look at it, which is collateral, because it brought a lot of increased the risk factor in the business, in the area of panic, anxiety, and these two factors don't go with any investment at all. And given that real estate itself is a usually huge portfolio for most people, enter or to continue or even to plan. So if you look around the world economy, most economies are shrinking, and globally, the global economy is also uncertain and shrinking. So it's confusing. Some countries are intervening and even providing money, reducing the interest rate so that mortgage can be financed. So to take your question directly, where government can come is, remember we started with a Federal Mortgage Bank, so through institutional intervention, providing for cheaper funds, even for developers like us, and for people who actually want to, customers who want to buy. So if I understand in the past couple of months that some areas of the economy have been, favored with such interventions. So given that this is a critical area of the economy, because you see, it creates jobs, people need homes, and land is first line investment for most families. In institutions to provide funding for developers on one hand, cheaper funding, funds. The funds bring a boost to buyers who want to have homes. If the mortgage system can work, and the only way it can work is that if it's properly funded, government should bring funds together and use institutions like this. If the structure is 15 to 30 years, it will bring
depending on how we do, I can either add questions or reduce. So, you can go on if you have anything else you want to add, because it's really about your experiences.
Yeah. So what I want to see is, if you look at what particularly Nigeria, we are a mono economy that is dependent on oil. And the moment the pandemic came, at some point there was a total shutdown. So the result was no money at all, no investment at all, exchange rates, because you're not receiving. Yesterday went up. So for developers, you can't, most of the things we are using, materials we are using, we are coming from China and such places. And as we speak now, we can't even source them. Can you imagine that? We can't even transfer more than $10,000 abroad to buy anything today. So people are resorting to makeshift and this to stay in business because we are not even recognized as a sector by government. So if with this pandemic, government knows, okay, this area of building material, central bank can provide funding. If you want to buy tiles, we can allow you to remit $100,000 to buy tiles, or $200,000 to buy tiles. Special concession. As we speak, there's no concession at all. So, assuming you made a 3-year plan to import tiles for homes you're building, and because pandemic came, the regime changed from that you can export $300,000 to pay for your tax. You can now remit only $10,000 to fund your LC. I'm facing that. How do you continue? And these are issues that I am happy that in a gathering platform like this, we can exchange ideas so that people at the level of government can understand what we face. Because from the macroeconomic policies, it comes down to demand on the day-to-day person, small businesses like ours, trying to survive on a day-to-day basis. So for us to be able to buy tiles, we resort now to all kinds of things because the system, everything suddenly changed. And this changing is what government don't address fast enough. If in February, for instance, you could remit money and buy tiles into Nigeria, and suddenly you can no longer remit that money. What do you want the person to do before you now have Nigerian companies that manufacture enough tiles or enough this for us or lighting for us? These are issues that are real, concrete issues that we believe that government, because funding is everything, movement of funds is real estate itself. So if they can understand what we go through in sourcing materials, and then what our customers go through in buying homes, is fundamental. Everybody wants a home, and nobody gets money. It's only in Nigeria that you have to have that money together to go and pay for a home. And government over the years have left it that way. Interventions like Federal Mortgage Bank, they are there, but there are no emphasis on them. We are hearing a little bit of things that they're planning to do something now, but it should be something done in concrete terms. Yeah. Intervene well so that we can change the picture of the area, real estate factor completely.
I hear you, brilliantly put. Policy stability is always something we have to talk about here. And it's an issue that the Nigerian state has had to deal with. And I remember it was last week when the CBN released a document, and we are hopeful that this document will become reality very quickly. And one would want to hope that in the future, wider consultation will be done before certain decisions are taken regarding funding, because it really is the lifeblood of development. Thank you so much for that well-placed response. So in the introduction to our panel, one of us went to the best school in Nigeria, at least that's what they told us. And there's a question here that I think would fit him very well. Just coming back from what Mr. Nweke spoke about, thinking about the buyer. How can people pay? How can people bring money out? And then matching that with the cost of actually bringing these houses into existence. So I think the question here for you, sir, is what do you think developers can do? Seeing the situation that we're just coming from in the last question, what do you think developers can do to improve their cash flow situation while also providing assets that people can buy?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Ayo, for the introduction, especially about the greatest university in the whole world, OAU. Thank you very much. And of course, I also want to thank the organizers. I also want to thank the organizers of this event. It's been a great time. I've enjoyed the last about 2 hours or so. We have been on this event. So I want to thank Business Day and Thinkmint. It's a very wonderful one. I really want to say that we should keep this up. Where we can have forums like this where developers and stakeholders in the industry can be coming together once in a while to discuss issues, that affect our industry. So talking about what developers can do to enhance cash flow, post-COVID. Anyway, we are still in COVID, but based on the issues that the real estate industry, has gone through, during this period. I think for me, especially for us at Dealers Residencies Limited, when we encountered this issue, I think it started back, March this year. And of course, there was a total lockdown of everywhere, So when we resumed back in May, so the first thing we did was to do a bit of R&D, research and development. Because we are not living in normal times. What has happened during the COVID period has been unprecedented. Nobody can say he has experienced it before in terms of what in the health sector, in the economy itself, even look at what has happened in Forex and all that. So when we resumed back to work in May, after the lockdown was lifted, the first thing we did was to go into a bit of research and development. So when I say R&D, of course, I know generally people talk about R&D, in businesses, want to introduce a new product into the market, you want to do a bit of research about it. But again, like I said, the period we live in is a very strange period. So we had to research into what has happened to real estate. As we speak right now, what is the purchasing power of our target markets? What is the purchasing power of our target audience? So we look critically at that, and we came up with some strategies. Of course, some of these strategies are things that we actually used to. They are things that have been used before. But what we actually had to do was to find a way of amending these strategies to now fit into the present realities that we have on ground during COVID-19 as we speak. So for me, talking about how developers can enhance their cash flow, I would say the first thing, is to go into some level of R&D, So basically, you're not doing R&D like you are just starting your business all over. You're just about to launch your business, afresh. But the truth is that I think during the time of lockdown, there was actually a vacuum in every part of of the economy, a vacuum even in our lifestyle. Of course, everybody was shut down, nobody could go out. So I would say we should do a bit of research and development. We have done a bit of that at Deluxe Residencies. We have had to amend some of our strategies. One of the major strategies that we use is in terms of structured payments of when you buy into our products, you pay on installments. So we had to research into it. Even within what we do, we still have different segments. So we still went ahead to do more segmentation, for the present market that we have, And again, when you are doing your research and development, the best way to do it is also to find a way of reaching out to your existing clients. There are some clients that probably they have bought maybe products from you, not just in one particular project. There may be about 1 or 2 or 3 projects. So, for such people, they follow you everywhere you go, in your project development. So you need to talk to people like that. We did, and of course, we also spoke to new prospects to understand what people actually want, right now. So another thing I would say is that, I'm talking about strategies generally. For me, basically, three areas that you have to look at as developers to enhance your cash flow is look at three areas, which is strategies, look at managing your costs, and of course, look at your marketing. These three, come in handy in terms of looking at how to shore up your cash flow, as a developer. So, like I said the other time, of course, most of us developers have we have platforms or structures in place where people can buy and pay on instruments. As we speak right now, there's not everybody that has access to mortgage, but when you're talking about the installment payments for subscribers, the new normal right now is that you cannot afford to just come up with a blanket strategy and say, okay, this product, we are selling at 50 million per flat, and the payment is over 12 months. So what it means is that you must do a bit of customization, which is what we did at Deluxe. So we had to talk to individual clients, look at their purchasing powers, look at their tastes, look at what they wanted at that time and what they still want right now. And we had to, tailor payments according to people's individual power. Of course, I also put a catch to it, or a caveat, as lawyers will say, the truth is that you can't have your payment period to be open-ended. So the project you are dealing within 2 years or 3 years, you can't say, somebody cannot come to you and say he wants to pay over 10 years, for instance, except such a person, is able to get a good mortgage, from maybe a bank or a primary mortgage provider. So basically, it's very important, that you look at that, how to customize payment based on what clients can afford. Really, going back to during the lockdown period, there were a lot of us that were actually just probably, expecting maybe the end of the world had come, especially in terms of businesses. There was a lot of pessimism, in the markets. People were scared. Nobody knew what was going to happen. There were a lot of concerns about people losing their jobs, and of course, purchasing power, being reduced, drastically. So basically, like I said, there were a lot of, palpitations and fear when we were coming back during the lockdown. So another strategy I also mentioned is looking at partnerships, especially as a developer. So because as a developer right now, you want to try as much as possible to conserve your resources. So maybe instead of you looking at the option of buying lands and you want to develop, I know that there are a lot of opportunities to do joint ventures. Going to joint ventures with people that have lands and you partner with them and develop it. Based on our experience, we know that I think that is actually much faster, though there are some calculations out there that the returns on your investment when you buy land, build and sell is actually much higher than when you are doing joint venture. But again, you must give something, to have something. So I want to encourage the developers, go for more joint ventures. Don't put your funds, into acquiring land and you're developing, because as the saying goes, in the industry, they are probably tying down your funds, especially the funds that you have applied, to the construction or the major project itself. So, and apart from joint ventures, you can also find some levels of partnerships, and I'm talking about maybe like fundraising, for instance. A presentation that was made the other time by the GMD of Party Morgan Holdings, Mr. Adishope, we mentioned rates, and during that panel session, he spoke a lot about rates. So as a developer, what is your rate? You must have your own strategy of raising funds. That is very important, because especially on projects that you have launched already, that maybe you probably must find a way of delivering the project. By all means. So the truth is that you must find a way of going out, you must go out of your way to be able to raise funds, and bring it to your project so that your project can be, delivered, in a faster way.
Wow.
Let me also just add this, cost management and marketing, very important on your project, on your side, because we are talking about cash flow right now. When you're able to manage your cost very well, on our project. For us, there were some suppliers that we're working with that we used to pay them with markups. Then we had to call for some negotiations. Of course, eventually we eliminated the markups. So these are areas that I know developers can actually ensure a much better cash flow for their projects. So thank you, Harry.
All right, thank you very, very much for that response, cost management, marketing, partnerships, and we here at Northcote had been tracking the market for installmental payments, on projects and all whatnot, and all that and more is in a half-year report, which will be given to every attendee at the end of this conference. The free report just came out. It's research of the real estate market is what we do. So thank you very much once again. And while you were giving us that, our Woman of the Year stepped into the building. So congratulations and
thank you.
Welcome.
Apologies again. Apologies for having to kind of sneak in. Like we all know, our session was running slightly late, and I'd arranged my schedule accordingly. But I had to just quickly take another call and then join you. Hopefully we're still on. So thank you again for the...
Thank you so much for making it to...
I'm humbled.
So I know we had spoken earlier on in the year, and a certain building was launched and a second one is on the way. So clearly, you've been very busy. So it seems you hacked how to develop properties of a certain standard, in Lagos. And as we heard from our previous speaker, Mr. Ademayowa, managing costs is a very integral part to that. Now, before you came in, Mr. Nweke has spoken to us about the dearth of local supply of construction.
Okay.
So all of that together to ask you this question. What, in your view, are the cost-effective strategies that can be used to develop properties now, despite the effects of the pandemic and this inability to import raw materials?
Okay, I apologize again because I must have missed some of the valid points that were made by other panelists. And pardon me if I'm having to repeat something that was said earlier on. And the effects of the pandemic. I think many of us sitting here must have felt the effect when we had the lockdown. Not just the lockdown in the country, it also affected, like in this case, the pandemic has been global. It's a disruption that has affected the entire world. So we're not alone, and we'll get through this together. And so back to your question about building materials and what you also mentioned before you actually went to the point about what other panelists had said. The ideal solution would be for us as a country to be self-sustainable. That means for us to be able to produce our own building materials. That would be the ideal solution, but that is not the case. But I think going through what we've gone through in the last few months has taught everybody a lesson. And we also now drive home the real need to actually begin to depend on our local skills as well as materials. Because if you think about it, when the pandemic started and some of our experts, contractors actually went away because of the lockdown of the airspace, they couldn't come back. So we actually started thinking, if we had our own people, then they will be locked in with us. We won't be waiting for airspaces to open for them to come back. And same thing with the materials, because most of the international factories were shut down. The ports were also affected. We couldn't get these things in. But then again, the country was also shut down during that period and construction sites were shut down. But then we had to now, after everything opened up, we had to start now waiting for these materials to come in. So that was a huge delay. Some of my projects, or most of my projects, were affected. I'm sure many others were also affected. many other contractors and developers felt the same pinch or the same pain that I felt. So you can't take away the fact that we as a country must begin to start looking inwards to ensure that at least some of our materials are produced or manufactured here. And then if we actually start going through that, we'll start talking about how you have to make it friendly, the country friendly for us to have manufacturing go up. You have to start talking about power. We have to start talking about infrastructure. So that's a long one. But then what else can you do to ensure that you deliver on your projects to cut costs? Like we already mentioned, having local suppliers, but then there are other things. How can we actually cut costs? Number one, what we've done in Afriland is that when we actually give our projects, we take a look at the lead items. So items that we know would come from out of the country. And due to the effects of Forex, we try and pay that upfront so that you give the contractor that you're using enough funding to bring in these items before we start having fluctuations. I'm sure everybody feels that the cost of fluctuations in our Forex, and then that brings about variation in project costs as well. So planning your project well would help you cut costs. So if you think about the items that need to come that you're going to use, even though it's going to be maybe 6 months, 8 months, 10 months down the line, you need to start planning how you're going to bring them in quickly before you start having to deal with fluctuations in Forex. So that's one thing we do. And then we also start deliberately looking at areas where you can actually put your money to bring maximum benefits to you. And that is actually putting your money where your mouth is. That means you're looking at it, you're saying, this is what I need to do, and look at the opportunities I have here, and this is where I'm going to put my money. The era of throwing money where you like is over. So you have to be deliberate in your disbursements. So that's something that we take delight in doing, and we're able to ensure that we're able to put out our projects successfully without so much of a variation. As you know, if there's so much cost that comes in at the back end, then before you know it, your project will become unviable. It will be looking pretty, but it's costing you so much, and you don't want a beautiful project to take you down. So those are things that you need to look at. But like I said, or like you mentioned and I concurred to, is we must begin to look inwards in this country to ensure that we begin to use some of our local materials to work for us. Because at the end of the day, if you look at what they're doing in other countries, in the US, sometimes we look at it and we laugh, we say, why did they build with so much wood? But they're using what they have readily available. So we have to start questioning the kind of materials we use. Are there other substitutes that we as Nigerians can actually begin to use to produce the end result and the end product for us? So that's an area that we must begin to concentrate upon in this country.
Thank you very, very much. I mean, I wish we had just a little more time. I'd have loved to probe, deeper into that response. It's a very solid response in my view. So we'll just go through one more round of questions as quickly as we can, and then we will round up. I'll go to you, Mr. Aliyu. As your final question today, what do you think are the 3 lessons developers can learn from the whole pandemic situation? What are the 3 lessons you think developers need to learn?
Well, I think the first and most obvious one I'd say is that things can change abruptly.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate is an investment that takes a lot of time. When you put money in a project, you have to envisage this money being into something for 2-3 years or longer. And you don't have a crystal ball where you can see the end of that road. And so what this teaches is, things can change abruptly. And so whatever you need to do as far as mitigating risk, whether in initiating a project or a project that's existing, you have to ensure that you do that. And there are a number of things, right down to the type of projects you do at a moment like this, can help you mitigate the risk that is within the operating environment. So I think the most I think one to see is things can change quite quickly, and so you have to prepare for it. That's one. The second, I think, is developers need to be very mindful of their portfolio. You have to really keep your eye on the ball and make sure you don't, at all, slip up in terms of that. And what I mean by that is, if prior to COVID or at any period really, you have a portfolio in terms of real estate investment, the type of developments that you're doing that are top heavy, maybe you're doing more projects that were in the 100 million naira plus range and you were getting success there, well, you have to revise that strategy. And what it means is you will have to balance out your real estate projects as well as you can. So you have to introduce something that is probably within the mid-range, and you have to do something that is within the low, so that you can hedge your risk. So I think the second thing is to be very, very mindful of your portfolio. What type of projects are you doing? Are these projects that the market can absorb? Are you going by historic history only and not adapting to the current environment? And I think that can be devastating, because like I said, if you're getting success doing one type of project and you fail to see the need to diversify in a moment like this, you could be in for a very, very rude awakening. So that's number two. I would say the third thing is to be mindful of leverage. Us in real estate business, leverage is, considered your friend in normal situations, right? In the sense that any project you do requires a significant amount of capital, that you don't have all of that capital available. Secondly, whatever deposits that you're expecting from customers also may not come at the rapidity that you want it to come. So you're going to have to take on some leverage at some point in terms of your capital self in this type of situation. You took on a huge loan with high rates, and that was something that was majority of a project that you're doing. You're going to have a lot of trouble in terms of making payments for that project and exiting such a project, to be honest. So I think in summary, these are the three things that we got from this. And no one can predict the future. So what you can do, what we did as an organization, is just prepare as much as possible for what is to come. And we did that by focusing on the portfolio that we have and making sure we have a good mix of projects. So we have something that is on the low, we have something that is mid-range, and we have some investment in projects that are in the high end as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Ademayo. I guess it's your turn now. So we're on the last range of questions, and in 1 minute, can you let us know how you feel COVID-19 has influenced your pricing model?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so basically, COVID-19 impacted our pricing, but I can actually tell you that it's been a bit difficult and complex due to the fact that COVID-19 affected the economy, affected the purchasing power of the clients on one hand. At the other end, created a lot of inflation in terms of cost of building materials. So you're actually, in between, like they say, a rock and a hard place, because basically you are looking at how do you bring down your price so that to be more affordable, to the target market. But at the same time, you need to put into consideration the cost of, buying building materials, from the market. So like I said, it's actually been very difficult. So like I said earlier, we looked at, we did some R&D, and part of what we discovered was that we had to find a way of bringing down our prices. Majorly, as we speak right now for deluxe residences, we play more at the higher end of the market, Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Lekki, and Oniru, So what we have come up with is to look at how we can come up with some products, maybe outside these places I've mentioned, that will actually be a bit affordable, to the teeming masses, really. So right now we are looking outside of this core Lagos, core metropolis. Right now we are looking at even going to probably the Lekki, and there's a project we're actually also working on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, very close to Judubega, And I believe is that based on the work that the Federal Ministry of Works is doing on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, that place is just about 5 minutes drive from Judubega, to the site. So I think for us, those are the areas we'll be able to look at bringing down the prices, of our products. But in terms of probably the existing products that we have, trying to bring down the price may actually make them shoot himself or herself in the foot. So it's been difficult doing that. But like I said, in terms of product differentiation, be able to do that, introduce some lesser priced products to the market. Thank you.
Well said, well said. And so our final question, at least for this session, goes to Mrs. Oshogwe. If anyone looks at the last projects you've done, you've been very bullish on the office markets, and the rest of us are wondering which crystal ball, because Mr. Aliyu has referred to a crystal ball like twice, so there's probably one you have that we don't have. What are your thoughts on the recovery of the office real estate markets? What is required, and how long do you think it's going to take?
How long is a piece of string, Ayo? Okay. Anyway, with the COVID has come with the lingo of social distancing, right? So physical distancing has changed the way we work, the way we live, the way we play. So for us, because we're now beginning to look at the impact of COVID and the new buzzword of remote working, this between March and now August, if you think about it, how many months? We have now, as a people, we have now realized that you really don't need this huge office space that people keep hankering for, because you can perform just as well in your house. So what does that mean for us? It means that the demand for commercial spaces, office spaces, has gone down. But then you can always, as a developer, you can bring other things to the table. We have to begin to think smart, building smart. So you're going to have to develop buildings that will begin to take into consideration the new ways of working. So even though they're not going to ask for big spaces, they're going to ask for small but functional spaces. So that's where you need to now play. We have to we have to change our mindset. It's not just, the days, I remember attending a program that you did that says, build and they will come. I don't know if you recall. Now, if you build, they would not come. Now you have to build to meet the needs of the client. Sometimes you as a developer needs to even let them know what they need. Sometimes, when you talk to developers, what are your requirements? As well as asking them what they need, you also need to make them understand what you think they need and convince them, surely, because you have to carry them along. So you have people that will come and say, I had a recent incident when you're talking to a client about this place and they're thinking, oh my God, I have this number of people and I need this number of floor spaces. In those days, you'll be saying, yes, of course you need 4 floors, but now it's not the way. Now is to say, you need 2, but this is how we're going to help you make that space functional. Especially most of us that have returned to work, people are not coming to work in full capacity. The way we work in my office is that we have the first batch of 50% of the workforce working for the first 2 weeks, and then you go home and you work remotely for the next 2 weeks, and the next batch comes. So that means half of your workspace is now kind of redundant. So that is what you're going to sell to people. You're not selling them capacity, volume. You're selling them small spaces that are functional. So the old way doesn't work, but the new way will work. But you need to sell it and make them understand that this is the new way it will work. So yes, the demand for office spaces has gone down, but then we need to now develop spaces that are small, functional, and more interesting. Sometimes you find out that the cost of that project is actually high, not as low as maybe if you say, okay, take this building, and rather than have, say, for instance, 8,000 square meters, we're going to have 4. But then that 4 is now a smart 4,000 square meters. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So we have to now begin to think outside the box, because yes, you're saying, how long is this going to take? Corona, the pandemic, and the new ways of working is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So we just need to adapt our ways to fit with that new ways of working. And then I'm expecting that the health authorities and even the technical world will start coming up with new building codes, whereby they're telling you the space per square meter that we used to know is no longer going to be that way. It's going to be much wider. So rather than have maybe 3-point-something square meters per square, you have your circulation space, it's going to be wider. We have to start looking at maybe new building codes that deals with our HVAC, because pandemic is here, it's not fully gone. Maybe there are going to be new ones, and everybody wants to be prepared for when it happens again. So we have to start looking at our air conditioning system, whereby you're able to have your air conditioner, you're going to be able to circulate fresh air, because we have buildings. When they talked about when you have preparing people, your return to work protocol, if you have ACs, make sure you throw windows open. How many offices have windows? Sometimes they're concealed with cladding. So you have to make sure that your ACs are functional, that can bring in fresh air into your building. So those are the kind of things we're going to be looking at now. Few years ago, it was all about open plan floor layout. But now, are we going to start thinking maybe enclosed interior spaces, maybe with glass that gives you the feel of openness, but still, protects us from maybe the sitting next to somebody and the physical distancing issues. So it's come up with new ways of thinking. It's come up with new and interesting ways of developing now. So I think the recovery is here. It's just how fast we can think of adapting to the new ways of working. So to me, they're interesting times.
Thank you so much, and to all my panelists, thank you so much for coming. Before you leave, I have a special gift for you, prepared by the National Bureau of Statistics, yes, and the researchers at Northcote. Now, not all of us have crystal balls. Sorry, that's the last time I'll use that joke. But what are your projections as regards the recovery? You can just give us a letter. There are 4 options, and we will let you know if you won our. Are we expecting a V shape?
Are we expecting
an L shape? Are we expecting a U shape? Now, before I put in the last one, the man who went to the best university in Nigeria, you are going first, so just get ready. And we're expecting a W shape. I was just looking at you. So, do you want time, or how do we do this? Who wants to go first? Our man from the best university in Nigeria. One letter, no explanation. One letter, that's all. V, L,
One letter.
W, that's all.
You. You should.
You're sure you don't want to phone a friend? You don't want to ask the audience? 50-50. So you're going with
For me, it's between you and.
No.
One.
You said you, and we said
Can I
you.
give a bit of analysis and answer?
Analysis, just one alphabet. One.
You,
Okay, I
so
think.
to our woman of the year, to our woman of
I think you.
who came
I go
in
for
when
you.
you and turned the entire conversation around. What do you think?
I want to be very optimistic. So I'll go for V. You know what they say about the power of the word, of what comes out of your mouth?
The way Mr. Ali is staring at this thing, I'm not sure.
Please don't say L.
What say you?
Please don't say L. I know there's L in your name.
You have answered now.
No. We can't do it. No. We don't pray for help.
He's looking carefully. He wants to phone a friend. Can he ask the audience?
No, he's looking at the crystal ball.
Okay.
Wait, am I up?
Yes, you're up.
Yes.
You've been up for the last 10 seconds, my friend.
No.
You are so up.
I'll go for a V.
You will
And,
go
and
for
just my simple reason. I think it's good. We should be bullish about Nigeria.
Yes.
Warren Buffett talked about being bullish about the US. I think we should be bullish about the country. So I'll take a V.
I absolutely agree. Now, since my company made these charts, I cannot say the answer. I can neither confirm nor deny that I have any idea as to what's going on.
Can I choose another answer now?
No. I would like to say.
Except you're going to agree with myself and Ali.
I just want a friend now.
You just found a friend.
Yes.
Okay.
My friends are should pick V.
And so with that, we'd like to thank each and every one of us for attending, for all our viewers, for Thinkmint putting this together, Senator Ashafa for coming through, Business Day newspapers. Over to you, our dear moderator.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ayo. I didn't expect anything less, but if you were to ask me in terms of the projection, I would take Q-shape. Q-shape obviously is not among the options that we have, but Q, just like Mukhtar said, I looked into the, this one is no longer even projection board. My own board sees everything up. Regardless of what it is, we know, just like Adeshokwe had mentioned, the real estate industry is the second employer of labor. That I have to further clarify. But what it tells you is the fact that just as agriculture has sustained the economy even within this very trying period, we also know that the telecoms and the e-payment sectors themselves definitely help to see exactly how, liquidity in terms of in and outflow of funds still going around the circular economy has helped to hold the economy as it is. However, the real estate industry is very key, and I'm glad that Uso mentioned something very, very key, which I think you industry players must take to heart and see exactly how you can push that further. The two words that comes to me is inward and homegrown solutions, because what this has defined by the COVID-19 pandemic. And so it's important for us to have exactly with what IO is doing at Northcourt, international properties with real-time value, to meet the need for more agile and flexible offices, recognizing the changing demands in the Nigerian property market. And the nominees for this category are: one, Purple, developers of Maryland Mall and Purple Lekki, amongst others. I have ITB, developers of number 1, Lagos. And we have Construction and Kaiser, developer of various commercial and residential buildings. And the winner, please, Ayo, can you kindly announce who the winner is?
The winner of this award goes to Purple Capital, developers of Maryland Mall.
All right, Purple Award is here. I just noticed that it is Purple written here. So please, can the owners of this award please stand up and come and collect the awards? Oh, I forgot, we're doing this virtually. That's the case, Matthew. Congratulations, Purple. And finally, we have two other aspects of the category, which is the standout projects of the year. And this is a special recognition category award for 2018 to 2020 ongoing projects that accommodate both retail, commercial, residential in a mixed-use development structure located in a sleek prime location. And to help me announce these two celebrated projects in this category, I would like to call on Mr. Mohammed Azaria. Is Mr. Mohammed still on? Oh, I see.
Good day.
I see all the way from Dubai. So please, I would like you to announce the winners of this particular celebration, as the case might be, in terms of some standout projects of the year.
Yeah, that's great. So look, delighted to be presenting this award to two fantastic developers in Nigeria. The first is to Mr. Ayadinki Adesopi, the CEO and Group Managing Director of Carlton Morgan Holdings for the Oceana development. And the second recognition and award goes to Mr. Emmanuel Odemayayo, Managing Director and Chief Executive of Deluxe Residences, for their development of the Pacific Lagos. So I think they should both get a very loud round of applause.
Oh, thank you very much. That is great. I have that here. That's the two. I have that here. I'm wondering whether Thinkmint has to do an award for me, because I can't be pushing awards all across like this. At the end of the day, we still have to, because we are doing a lot of mouth building in the real estate industry. It doesn't come as easy as it is. Thank you very much, Mohammed. So that goes to Oceana and the Pacific, all in Lagos. Thank you so very much. But before we wrap up this session, I have one quick question, and I think my technical team should have sent that to Ayo, and for Ayo to please, as a way of still wrapping up today's event, to ask the panelists, and briefly for 30 seconds thereabout, we can use that to close as the case is. So do I have that sent to you? Ayo, please check your chat. You basically see the question.
Yes, I do. So the first question talks about, can we say that COVID-19 will affect the time of delivery of real estate projects and possibly impact on the cost of development? I believe that was answered, but does anybody want to pick that up? I think Mr. Oshokwe answered that. And I think even Mr. Ali, you answered that. Okay.
Okay. So I think there are two questions.
Yes. The second one says, how can civil servants maximally take advantage of the National Housing Fund to own their houses in Nigeria? I don't know, that looks like a Mr. Liu question. Do you want to take a stab at that?
Okay, the question is, how can civil servants maximize by taking mortgages?
Yeah, from National Housing Fund, yes.
Well, from what I know, there's been a significant increase in terms of the contributions into the NHF. And this, of course, also helps in terms of capitalizing the other entities that provide mortgages. So for instance, the FMBN, the mortgage refinance company, etc. I think that the simple answer is the more contributions are made, at least in principle, the more that this money sort of round trips and it comes back to where people can access it. Now, the Federal Mortgage Bank in its current iteration, I think, is doing a very solid job. They've been really putting a lot of policies to make things easier as far as processing mortgages. We're still not there, but it's better than what it was before. Same thing with mortgage, refinance company, and also FHFL. all of these organs are set up in order to be able to collect and so that people can access mortgages. And if we do that continuously on a year in, year out basis, we're going to see significant improvement. On a per capita basis, Nigeria is obviously much lower than some of the other countries that we're being compared to, which is why you see the figures looking very skewed when you compare it to South Africa in terms of mortgage proliferation. South Africa has a per capita income of about, I think, $28,000, I think. We have a per capita income of just around 2,500, if I'm not mistaken. So this is going to take time to build. And like I said, on a year in, year out basis, as more people contribute, the more that they can, in principle, access these loans. There was an analysis done by the CBN, and I think this is poignant. It's not just about making the contributions, right? But incomes need to rise as well, commensurate with, how these contributions are being made. Because the average person cannot even afford a loan of around 0.5 million naira, even at single digits. This is based on a study that was done by the CBN. Contributions have been growing, and for people to actually be able to access it.
It'd be good to know what the maximum is that you can access and how easy it is to access.
The ease of accessibility.
Because there are people who can afford. I think you have a maximum of about 15 million. I think
there was 15 million. I think
15 million, and there's quite a high percentage of people who can afford to pay that. But the issue is the accessibility of those funds. Because, like we said, like you rightfully mentioned, the potential is huge. Because if you look at the percentage of people who have access to mortgages in this country is about, I think, just about 25%. And when you compare this to Kenya, Kenya is about 75%. It's not that people don't want to take it, it's that people cannot even access it. Because I have quite a number, like in where I work, it's compulsory, everybody pays into NHF. They've been doing that for the last, some people, 15, 18 years. But accessing it that's where the issue is.
Accessibility problem, yes.
Yeah. And some people pay it and they don't even know what it's all about. So sensitizing people is another issue. It's like, I'm paying this money, how can I access it?
Mm-hmm.
So there's, like you mentioned, a lot has been done, a lot more needs to be done.
Would you say, pardon me, Ayo, would you say in comparison, even with the Nigerian pension funds, are there lessons from that can be adopted, especially in regards with the mortgage and of course accessibility as well?
There are a few lessons because the Nigerian pension fund is further along the road and they are willing to take on a few more risks. But to all intents and purposes, there's a lot of work that has to be done on the Nigerian pension. I mean, you heard what Mr. Shope said. So people have been paying, this thing is deducted from source, and accessibility is usually a challenge. So I know some steps have been taken to what needs to be done, and when you finally do access it, what kinds of houses can you actually buy? So while we are running around, dealing with accessibility, the types of houses that we can buy are changing. Let me use that word.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Pardon me, I guess that must have been what Ayo had said in terms of the kinds of houses that can actually be assessed with. But I think it's a point the industry has to also look at and see, because that's a very salient point to raise. If there are models we can actually pick up and then we're able to adopt that within our own unique environment, that itself can actually be some form of homegrown solutions. Kenya, 75% or thereabout. That means
home ownership rate is 75%, while we are at 25%. And if you look at the population, we are huge.
So we have a very long way to go, as a matter of fact. I'm very sure the organizers, Thinkmint Nigeria will, and of course with the media partner business, we will definitely take this highlight back to the different, especially with the government, because it has to also deal with policies and ensuring that we are creating an enabling environment and making sure that at least the per capita income of the average Nigerian is something that can actually help the real estate industry thrive. You know, it's important because it's a win-win circular affair, as the case might be. One hand has to feed the other, and then there is a balance that is created at the end of the day. So it means we have a lot of work to do. Gentlemen and lady, we want to say a big thank you, Ayo. I want to say a big thank you to you, Mr. Emmanuel, from the best university in the world. People like Ayo might not like that, but it's their own cup of tea.
Thank
you very much, Madam Musa. Congratulations for being the real estate woman of the year. Of course, my very good friend, Mr. Mukhtar Adiu. It's always good to see you. And you're not smiling too much this year. I don't understand. I think it has to do with the COVID. Not to worry. From next year, the smiles will be broader. Okay, and Chedu Nweke, obviously, I think he must have gone ahead to join. My name remains Stephen. We are here on behalf of the industry as well as the delegates and participants. And I want to say a big thank you to all the delegates and participants all over the world and in the country, those who have hooked up on Facebook Live, of course on Facebook, as well as YouTube and Instagram, as the different other social media platforms, and Zoom. Certainly, I want to say a big thank you on behalf of the organizer, Thinkmint Nigeria, and of course with Media Partner Business Day for being with us to this time. And then hopefully tomorrow is going to be better than today. Thank you very much and congratulations for a successful day one. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.